Donald Trump just pardoned a man after the man's mother gave Trump $1 million.
Specifically, they wanted to talk to the farmers. The farmers have been big in the news ever since Trump won the election. It is a group of people. It is an industry that overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump. And of course, through a multitude of Trump policies, they're the ones getting screwed over the most. They're getting screwed with the trade war and the tariffs. They're getting screwed on the immigration crackdown, and they're getting screwed on the budget cuts that Republicans, or actually that Trump and Elon Musk made to the federal government, and of course with the recently House-passed Republican budget. So they're getting screwed from every possible angle.
That we're going to have to put over $1 billion into this jet from Qatar. The one Donald Trump has to have because he doesn't like Air Force One because it doesn't have golden seats.
Guess what he does? Justin Sun makes, and he's also in cryptocurrency clearly, Justin Sun makes two purchases, one for $30 million, another for $45 million into Trump's World Liberty company, his cryptocurrency. And guess now is who is an advisor to...
Hello and welcome to another video. And yes, I just put together some random videos of people talking about Donald Trump, okay? And it's so much to talk about it. It's just like randomly selecting the top topics right now. The white people is talking about Donald Trump. So I just put it together and I hope that you enjoy it, but it's just like an update of all the things that are happening right now. And please don't forget giving a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps my channel to grow and it helps other people to find my content and my videos.
Donald Trump just pardoned a man after the man's mother gave Trump $1 million. Paul Walzak was accused of $10 million worth of tax crimes, according to the New York Times, was convicted on 2 of those accounts and was getting ready to go to 18 months in prison and having to pay $4 million in restitution. He won't have to do any of that because Trump's people messaged the mother a month ago and said, would you like to pay $1 million to have dinner with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago and a bunch of other rich donors? And she said, yeah. 3 weeks after she did it, they got the pardon for her son. In the pardon application, she didn't just talk about her son's offenses. She noted that she was a multi-million-dollar Republican donor who raised money for Donald Trump as well. And she claimed, oddly, that this was all political retribution, the attack on her son, because she helped publicize the addiction diary of Biden's daughter that leaked and was under criminal investigation because of the leak. This is reminiscent of Trump's recent dinner with crypto donors. Remember how Trump last week invited a bunch of people to buy his meme coin, and they said the top 200 people or 220 or something, people who bought his meme coin would get to have dinner with Donald Trump. Basically, a vying, like an auction for Trump. Whoever bid more, whoever spent more money would get to go to Trump. And they did it, and he met with him. Most corrupt administration ever.
The Washington Post actually had a pretty massive article that came out this week where they decided to travel out to rural America and speak with real Americans, not politicians or lobbyists or donors, real blue-collar working Americans across the country. And specifically, they wanted to talk to the farmers. The farmers have been big in the news ever since Trump won the election. It is a group of people. It is an industry that overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump. And of course, through a multitude of Trump policies, they're the ones getting screwed over the most. They're getting screwed with the trade war and the tariffs. They're getting screwed on the immigration crackdown. And they're getting screwed on the budget cuts that Republicans, or actually that Trump and Elon Musk made to the federal government, and of course with the recently House-passed Republican budget. So they're getting screwed from every possible angle by the very person they voted for. And something miraculous happened. These people who voted for Trump overwhelmingly have realized we effed up. We screwed up badly. And they know it, and they admit it. Now those are the kinds of people that I like doing these stories on. This is not a ha-ha story. This is a hell yeah story. Also very sorry about what's happening to you, but you learned. These are the people who said, no, the stove doesn't look that hot. Don't tell me not to touch it. And they touch it and it's hot and it burns. And they're going to carry that scar. But now they're saying, you know what? I should have listened to you. I had to see for myself for some reason. But guess what? I'm not going to do it again. Now that's the part we don't know if these people are at yet. You've touched the hot stove, you know it burns you, you left your hand on long enough to leave a pretty massive burn that is definitely going to scar. But are you going to not touch that hot stove again? Because you know now that it burns. You know the damage that it causes. Can you not do it again? Let me read you some of the quotes. First of all, one family said the financial insecurity makes my depression worse. They've gotten to the point where we don't talk about financial issues in front of our kids anymore. But here's what happened to them. They have been hit. They took a 10% cut in their income after the Trump administration cut a program that allowed local farmers to supply food to local schools, public schools, and homeless shelters. Trump cut that program, which took money away from farmers and food away from starving children and unhoused people. So that was their first hit. They're getting hit with the tariffs because now it's harder for them to sell their goods to Canada, which was a major buyer of some of their produce. So that was their second hit. Then they had received or were going to receive an $8,000 grant for, which was it? To build a new greenhouse. That was part of a Biden administration program. Trump killed that program. So this $8,000 grant they were about to get to build a new greenhouse to, produce new crops, they don't get that anymore. So that was their third hit. So again, as I said, they're getting hit so many different times from so many different policies. It's not just the trade war. It's not just rounding up all the migrant workers and getting rid of them. It's not just the budget cuts. It's everything. Another one said that there's a sense of helplessness, frustration, and anger. And that's good. That is what these people should be feeling right now. Another farmer said, for every other farmer I've talked to, this has been earth-shattering and life-changing. I don't know what they were supposed to achieve, but from our perspective, you just hurt a lot of people. And that is exactly what Donald Trump and the Republicans are doing. They're just hurting a lot of people for the sake of hurting a lot of people. Because some of these actions from the administration, cutting the grants and funding of these programs, there's no rhyme or reason to it. At least with cutting some of the other programs, like in the Republican budget, it's like, okay, you're screwing people over to give the wealthy elite a tax break. It's a horrible reason, but at least it's a reason. The other things Trump's doing, there's no reason at all. None. He's just doing it for the hell of doing it. And these farmers, again, who overwhelmingly back Donald Trump, they know it, they realized it. So now let's hope they don't make the same voting mistakes in the future.
This is how Donald Trump is using cryptocurrency, his World Liberty Company, and his cryptocurrencies to do business. You need to listen to this. You may know that Trump had a dinner this week outside Washington at his golf course, and they had 220 cryptocurrency investors attend. Apparently, they paid $400 million to attend. And one of the people that was there is a Chinese person, a Chinese national, was born in China. His name is Justin Sun. Justin Sun was being investigated under the Biden administration in a case starting in 2023 for violations of the Securities and Exchange Commission for fraud and market manipulation. Among other things, he was paying celebrities to endorse his products. They weren't disclosing the payment and other things that they were doing to manipulate the cryptocurrency market. And guess what? After Donald Trump becomes elected president, guess what he does? Justin Sun makes, and he's also in cryptocurrency clearly, Justin Sun makes two purchases, one for $30 million, another for $45 million into Trump's World Liberty company, his cryptocurrency. And guess now is who is an advisor to World Liberty? Justin Sun. And guess what happens to the investigation by the Securities and Exchange Commission? All of a sudden, they announce first a 60-day pause, and now it appears that the charges are going to be completely dismissed for Justin Sun and the various charges that were ongoing from 2023 previously under the Biden administration under the Securities and Exchange Commission. You buy into Donald Trump's company and look what happens. Well, you know, those happen to be the facts. You can look at all the various news sources and see that. And the other thing about this with these cryptocurrencies, most of the people, it appears, that attended this event were not from the United States. Now, politically, they cannot contribute 1 penny to Donald Trump, but they can buy his meme coins, they can buy his real estate, they can buy anything else, and that's perfectly legitimate, and they can give him money that way. But if they were to try to give $1 politically, they can't do it. What do you think is going on here? Who's getting what? You tell me. Love to hear from my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and my burnout labels. This is just wrong. Just wrong. At least I think so. What do you think? Tell me, let me know.
And it's so much corruption in this government. It's so much corruption with Donald Trump. He just got paid $1 million to concede a pardon to a criminal. Okay, he got paid $1 million. He just have all his coins, his cyber coins that he just getting money from the cartel. So it is so much that is to cover all the things that he's doing, like all the corruption, all the thing is just so overwhelming. Okay, it is so much. And this is why this type of governments, these dictatorships stay in power, because the press cannot even cover that well, because it is so much that the press had to kind of focus their attentions in something, okay? And it's just a thing happening, one thing after another one, and nothing get really put in the spotlight. All the news are like covering. I just feel like I just put together like a random news, because it's just so much happening that maybe I'm not covering right now, that I want to just make sure that I cover everything. So stay towards the end, because I get really interesting. I try to cover everything that is the news as of today, what is going on with Donald Trump, all his corruption, everything, and why people is saying about him, okay? Just so stay towards the end. And the ones that are taking the worst part in this whole situations are the farmers, okay? Like this man just say they are being attacked. I then just barely give them enough money to they can survive, okay? The Donald Trump administration, and now they are just getting hit again with tariff, with programs that are taken away from them that they was receiving money. But I guess in the case of the farmers, it's FAFO, because they voted for this, so they are receiving exactly what they voted for. I guess they was voting for someone else receive the punishment, and they don't receive the punishment, but the ones that are being punished is them. And it is clearly there is one thing after another one, and I feel that all the punishment and all the things that are happening to farmers right now is because the Afrikaners farmers, and because JD Vance have owned kind of partially owned one of the biggest industrial agricultures in the United States, and they just want to get that land for they can put those farmers to produce here. And a lot of also the billionaires and the millionaires that support Donald Trump when he was in his campaign, they were South African billionaires, okay? And these South Africa billionaires and these South Africa billionaires had to be reformed. So part of the attack this going on with farmers, okay, you only need to follow the money, okay, following the money. It has to be with those African farmers and how they want to take away and possess the lands of the family farms have right now.
Donald Trump has pretty much tariffed everything at this point except for pharmaceuticals. That could soon change. In a recent article, a drug shortage expert at the University of Utah shared how devastating those tariffs would be. So let's take a quick look at some of the meds that could be highly impacted by Donald Trump's tariffs. The expert shared that low-cost, low-margin pharmaceuticals would be the first to be impacted, including some of the ingredients that go into epidurals. The expert also shared that most of the common pain meds that are prescribed come from China. And while you wouldn't notice right away due to large stockpiles in the United States, you would start to experience shortages or them completely being unavailable later in the year. In the United States, most prescriptions are for generics, and things like morphine as well as lidocaine could soon become very limited or unavailable. The expert also shared that those who receive infusion treatments for cancer could also see a devastating shortage. Chemotherapy treatments like cisplatin are already experiencing shortages right now, as 50% of all the product is manufactured in one facility in India. Right now, many hospitals are qualified as 340B hospitals. That allows them to purchase certain medications at steeply discounted prices. However, if Donald Trump enacts his tariffs, the pharmaceutical companies would have to cover up to 90% of the tariffs. They may choose not to at all. The expert warns that when Donald Trump announces tariffs on pharmaceuticals, you should expect within 6 to 8 months to start to see the impact.
Oh, don't be so sure of that yet. That bill passed the House by 215 to 214, and the House Republicans are infinitely more radical than the Senate Republicans. In fact, the Senate Republicans are already coming out against this bill. Not even a single day after the big, beautiful bill was passed in the House, a whole bunch of Senate GOP are saying they're not going to vote for it. Even crazy people like Ron Johnson and Rand Paul said they weren't going to vote for it because it increases the debt by $4 trillion. 4 other separate Republican senators, including Josh Hawley and Susan Collins, said they wouldn't vote for it based on its current Medicaid reforms. Still 2 others said they didn't want to vote for it because it repeals energy credits. There are going to be many more articles and comments from senators as the days go on because this is only 24 hours old. But so far, individually, of the ones who outright said they would not vote for the bill, I counted like 7 or 8 Republicans. That's not even counting the fact that the Democrats are not going to vote for this at all. However, even though it's been the top thing on our minds and everybody in the media, the provision that makes Trump completely able to ignore the judicial branch, so far none of the dissenting votes from Republicans in the Senate were talking about that provision. Which is ironic because a lot of those Republicans did have a problem with a provision that had the government auctioning off old Spectrum used by the Pentagon, calling it a national security risk. They didn't seem to have a problem with a provision that allows Donald Trump to completely ignore a third of the government and ignore court orders. So the Republicans themselves in the Senate already want to gut the hell out of this bill. And one thing that's definitely going to get cut out, especially because of the Byrd rule, is that provision that makes Trump a king and makes him able to completely ignore the judiciary and pass any unconstitutional executive orders that he wishes. It's going to be a long, ugly road over the next few months, but I can almost guarantee that this thing is never going to pass the Senate the way it is.
I will support and totally complete the rebuilding of every region and town and city that was devastated by the hurricane, and I will slash through every bureaucratic barrier that you're having already and having problems with right now, I understand pretty badly.
Yeah, except you won't. Yeah, no help for the people of North Carolina. What did it take him, all of a day, 48 hours, to go down there to the scene to basically politically monetize people suffering for his campaign, and made all these promises to them? How's that working out for you guys? I saw the governor of the state of North Carolina say it's going to cost North Carolina taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars just to complete additional cleanup. And then I remembered that we're going to have to put over $1 billion into this jet from Qatar. You know, the one Donald Trump has to have because he doesn't like Air Force One because it doesn't have golden seats. Or how about the fact we're going to spend $45 million on his birthday party? Yeah. Priorities. He hasn't even mentioned the tornado victims. Hadn't even come up. No. Not even a whisper. I don't know how many times this man is going to have to show people that he does not care about anybody but himself. No money for hurricane victims, tornado relief. Like, these people's lives have been completely turned upside down. They've lost everything, and you can't even make a mention of it. And it's because it's not about him. He has nothing to gain. If he was running a campaign, he would have been down there surveying that tornado damage probably within a couple of hours. But that's because he wanted something from you. He didn't want anything from you now. He got your vote. And that means you're asked out. I don't know if you know what asked out means, but you're asked out. He got what he wanted. He got your vote. And now he's done with you. That's who Donald Trump is. People tell me all the time, they say, Matt, you're just a Trump hater. Yeah, genius. You figured it out. Because of the man he is. Well, set aside politics. I hated Donald Trump when I was old enough to know how to hate somebody, when I was a kid. I didn't need him to become president for me to hate him. This is who he has been his entire life. Openly on TV, and people loved him for it. Why? I don't know. And for all you people in North Carolina, Missouri, Kentucky that refer to him to Daddy, well, Daddy went to get a pack of cigarettes. I have a feeling you know how that ends. Thanks.
I don't like doing this. I don't like talking in these terms. I don't like dumbing down socioeconomic conversations into these three buckets of isms that were defined by papers written by men before electricity existed. It is totally moronic that we are so often reduced to talking about capitalism, communism, and socialism as if that is the only way to talk about socioeconomics, and it's these three competing isms that are involved in some sort of shell game. It's totally stupid, totally inhibits our ability to deal with our actual problems. But it is also the level at which MAGA understands things, so I will speak to them at their level. Donald Trump is a communist. Donald Trump has ended free market capitalism in America. And I am not here to defend what free market capitalism in America has become. It has run amok. It is not going well. But to be clear, Donald Trump is a communist. He is a centralized authority figure who now dictates to individual businesses and entire fields of business what they can manufacture, do, where, and how much they charge. On top of which, he is personally enriching himself with crypto coin from those businesses with bribes so that they can be exempted from his dictates. That is as literal a version of Soviet communism as you are going to see. Donald Trump is also imposing tariffs illegally, meaning it is not in the Constitution for him to do, it is for Congress to do. By illegally doing it, by taking that power, he has further centralized power, creating market fluctuations that he profits from and can further dictate to businesses what to do. We are now living in a communist system as a fact.
People keep asking where the U.S. military is and everything that Donald Trump's doing, and we're starting to see some movement from them in subtle ways. The U.S. Army has confirmed that when they hold their 250th birthday parade through Washington, D.C. in a few weeks, that they're not going to talk about Donald Trump at all. And the only reason they're going by the White House is because it was along their normal parade route anyways, and the White House is the one setting up all of their own grandstands for Trump to view it from. At the U.S. Naval Academy, they had previously removed books because of DEI and gender studies, gender identities, all sorts of things that the Trump administration disagrees with. Well, they've started putting those books back in the library and back in the curriculum. And they're doing this at U.S. military academies around the country. While the US military isn't blatantly coming out and disregarding everything that Donald Trump's telling them to do, there are commanders out there that are doing things against the administration's wishes because they're the right things to do. Now, we would love to see them come out further against the administration, but that could lead to a military coup, and that's not something that we actually want to see in the
Absolute shit, y'all. The most devout Trump cabinet member just completely threw him under the bus. When asked about Donald Trump's shady crypto dinner with 200 of his sketchiest superfans, Press Secretary KK Caroline Leavitt didn't even try to spin it. Instead, she basically said, "You'll never know who was there. I'm not going to tell you because this was a personal dinner. It wasn't a public presidential one." And just like that, she handed every single prosecutor in this country a gift. Because if it's personal, he can't hide behind presidential immunity. Yeah, because that legal shield only protects him from official acts. So if he was trading political favors in exchange for massive amounts of funding, which it's already been reported that that's exactly what he was doing, then this isn't just like morally gray or arguably unethical. It's flat out criminal. And thanks to KK Caroline Leavitt, that means it's fair game. So you know what? Thank you, KK Caroline, for the radical transparency. Let's hope that bust you threw him under has some real speed to it. Now, to cover my bases, I'm not promising that this is gonna be the thing to bring down Trump and his regime. But it is one of those things, and we're in a time where Democrats would be foolish to not jump on this. Donald Trump is a convicted felon, a known con man, and an adjudicated rapist. Becoming president, again, doesn't erase any of that. So y'all, do me a favor with this one. Tag every single Democratic elected representative that you can think of in the comments. I want this to be something that we start seeing on the front lines ASAP. This is a smoking gun, and we have to use it.
So Van Jones was on CNN yesterday saying that he thinks that Elon Musk is going to be super popular again once he stops dabbling in politics. To what I say to that is, what are you smoking and can I have some of it? This guy has overseen the destruction of the United States federal government, cutting services for millions of people who actually need it, while not cutting any of his own contracts, though, mind you, and also promoting far right-wing and sometimes that party we can't say without being limited here, supporting them as well. Why on earth would most of America who does not like Elon Musk now all of a sudden go, oh, we like him again after all this damage that he has put out in front of us? It kills me that CNN and other media outlets continue to put these people up and claim that they are the voice of the left, when in fact those people aren't doing anything on this side to make a difference other than going on CNN, collecting a check, and spewing nonsense that isn't reflective of what most people think about. And the media wonders why no one is paying attention to mainstream channels anymore. It's shit like this. No one thinks that Elon Musk is going to be popular again, so why are you paying somebody to go on TV and say it? It's nonsense. Elon has destroyed his brand. It is over for him. The only way he could come back from this would be to completely do a 180 and apologize and then put his money where his mouth is, which is to try to defeat what he had been supporting. And there's no chance of that happening. So sometimes when I watch these guys say these things on TV, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills because it makes no sense.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has out-crazied herself. Her new thing is she's arguing with AI about her faith. She is a nut. It's completely bananas. I had to bring it to your attention. Okay, let's start here. Marjorie Taylor Greene posts, I'm a Christian, an imperfect sinner, saved by grace and faith in Jesus. I'm a nationalist, a proud American who loves my country and wants to make our home nation is the best place for all American citizens and future generations to come. Blah, 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 blah. May God bless each of you and may God bless America. Okay, so then we have a wise guy named Jack. And Jack says, at Gronk, is that true? Is she really a Christian? And Gronk says, Marjorie Taylor Greene identifies as a Christian, expressing faith in Jesus and traditional beliefs, like in her 2021 Christmas message. However, her Christian nationalism and support for conspiracy theories like QAnon spark debate. Critics, including religious leaders, argue her actions contradict Christian values of love and unity, citing her defense of January 6th and divisive rhetoric. Supporters may see her stances as faith-driven. Whether she's really a Christian is subjective, depending on a personal and theological views. Her faith appears genuine to her, but her public actions create controversy. Okay, we can all agree with that. We can all agree that Marjorie Taylor Greene runs around. She tells people to FO. She has the most crazy thoughts. Anybody that disagrees with her, she gets in their face. She is so hateful and rude, brings dick pics on the floor of the house, but she runs around. She's such a true Christian. Okay, so just when you thought the level of crazy was too far, Marjorie Taylor Greene starts arguing with Gronk. Here we go. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, at Gronk, the judgment seat belongs to God, not you, a non-human AI platform. Okay, dude, non-human AI platform. Quit arguing with it. This is crazy. Then she goes on to attack in her usual MAGA fashion. Gronk is left-leaning and continues to spread fake news and propaganda. When people give up their own discernment, stop seeking the truth, and depend on AI to analyze information, they will be lost. Okay, newsflash, Marjorie Taylor Greene. You are the reason people are lost, because people look at you and think, oh, she's such a good Christian, yet she wants to take food from poor people. She wants to deport people without due process from this country that are seeking asylum and other protections of the United States. And
we have some major news. Donald Trump is still talking about annexing Canada and making it the 51st state, and now he says Canada is considering his offer, which is, of course, not true. On Truth Social just moments ago, Donald Trump said, I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system, that it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer. Now, once again, there's no offer being considered. This is just Donald Trump living in fantasy land, as he does so often. When will this unhinged lunatic give up this very random and strange dream of annexing Canada? They will never be the 51st state. That is so abundantly obvious to anybody who has a little bit of critical thinking. So many issues happening around the world, so many issues happening in the United States, and this is what Donald Trump is focused on. Great. As a reminder, I post on YouTube, Instagram, Substack, and more. The link is in my bio. Check it out. It would mean a lot.
We're going to talk about Trump shaking the backbone of the U.S. economy. So through the videos on the One Big Beautiful Bill, I offhandedly mention how the bond market isn't going to like it, because Trump is creating trillions of more debt than usual. I mentioned more than once that passing the Big Beautiful Bill would hurt the bond market. Well, apparently just passing the House was enough. Wall Street traders are stepping away from U.S. debt. It's happening so often, the trend has been given the nickname of Sell America. You don't need to know a lot about the markets to know that a trend that implies dumping everything associated with long-term U.S. investment is bad. I was really hoping we wouldn't have to dive into this, but it seems like time. The reason the bond market is so important is because it holds all the other markets together. When yield on bonds go up, it sends interest rates on a lot of consumer debt up, like mortgages. Yields are the amount the person buying the U.S. debt can expect to make. Basically, the bonds are supposed to be very safe investments because the U.S. will always pay. Nothing is zero risk, but they're supposed to be very, very safe. The higher the yield, the more risk is being seen. If you can get 5% from a 30-year bond that is very low risk, why would you loan money for a 30-year mortgage at 5%? The mortgage is riskier than a bond. So as a result, interest rates on mortgage will go up and the home buyer has to spend more. Now, 5% is high for a yield on a 30-year treasury. We haven't seen that in about 20 years. It was just before the Great Recession in 2007. Until now. 30-year treasuries crossed over 5%. U.S. debt is being seen as risky. Another big issue is that the Treasury just had an auction on Wednesday. Demand wasn't there, and they had to give higher yields. That worried investors. The bond market is screaming that the one big beautiful bill is going to tank the economy. Fixing this issue is hard. The Federal Reserve isn't going to want to let interest rates go up because that slows the economy. But if they buy the bonds to drop yields, they'll produce inflationary pressure. Between the tariffs and the one big beautiful bill, the U.S. economy is on incredibly shaky footing. I have been saying for months this was going to happen with the bond markets. But I didn't expect it to occur simply because the House passed a version we all know the Senate is going to rewrite. The tariffs have taken a bigger toll than I imagined. The tax cuts that primarily benefit the wealthy have an incredibly high chance of tanking the economy. I guess then the wealthy can then use their tax cut savings to buy up the foreclosed homes. The bond market isn't signaling. It's jumping up and down, screaming, and asking Congress not to push Humpty Dumpty off the wall. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
The corruption in this government. Yes, he just did a dinner, okay, where everybody pay like $1 million for be there. If you pay $1 million, you get to talk to him. He also had this cyber coin. That is a way that everybody that want to get a favor from him or want to getting his ear, okay, they can buy this cyber coin that is like a fraud, okay, that he's just going a scam, okay, and they just buy the coin, okay, for this coin that he's running, okay, and then they give him the money for the coin, and then they can have the ears of the president, okay, they can have the ears or the favors of Donald Trump. The level of corruption of these men and this administration is unbelievable. It's just something that is, I never seen something like that before, okay, and it's just so freaking incredible. It's so incredible. So people is just the people that want to have the ears of the president, they just go and just pay those coins and they just have the ears of him for a little bit.